Keep it at Fox FM and we'll keep you up to date. Silverstone, all public car parks closed today. The police will turn you back, and Silverstone say hang on to your Saturday tickets and they will sort out refunds.
And this is Silverstone. Saturated, chilly and totally uninviting. That's the scenario for the qualifying hour. You want to know why they've closed the car parks today? Look no further. The Grand Prix is the biggest single sporting event in the British calendar. We normally come here in mid-July, a time for barbecues, camping and t-shirts. But today, in what must be a virtually unprecedented act, the organisers are begging the public to stay away. So why are we here? No one is willing to take responsibility for switching the dates. The reasons have been lost in a cloud of Formula One mumbo-jumbo. It's the fans who are suffering. What an irony. Next door to the quickest cars in the world, just shifting your vehicle is a huge achievement. Visiting the Grand Prix this weekend is a big test of character. First of all, you've got to get past those police roadblocks.
We have got parking, yeah. I'm just going to drop them off and then come back out
That's
again.
great, no problem.
Round back, mate.
Yeah, enjoy. It's the best mode of transport.
Have a nice one. Hope it stays dry.
But the fans who have got by those roadblocks, well, they just seem happy to be here. They've come by bus and many have walked a long way on foot.
Well, we got ripped off. Got ripped off for the cab. £15 for about
3 minutes.
90 seconds in the cab.
About a mile.
That's right.
7 miles
7 miles?
from Brackley.
Really? How long has that taken you?
2 hours and about 10 minutes.
Nowhere for dollar, mate. Wash out.
We don't have a say in when the date is. The date's fixed on an international calendar, and you have the choice of this. We have the choice of this weekend or no race, so there's not much of a choice.
We've squeezed this year in the United States Grand Prix, so the calendar was a bit of a muck-up, to be quite honest with you. And I'd scheduled the French Grand Prix to be on this date, so we were going to be at our normal date, and France was going to be on this date. And then there was a bit of internal politics going on, and the French won, basically. That's what happened. So we're suffering.
And so are we, Bernie. So the French won the political game. We are assured this will never happen again. And the British Grand Prix will take place in mid-July next year. Joined here, as always, by Tony Jardine. And great to welcome Nigel Mansell. What do you make of all this scene here, Nigel?
Well, it's interesting. I think we're on live TV, aren't we? So
we are live, don't worry. You can say what you like.
Happy birthday, Eric. He's a very young 84 today in Jersey,
okay.
in High Hazel. But it's unfortunate for the fans. It's just incredible, really. But the thing is, in the 25 years I've been coming here, I just think there should be a lot more hard-standing car parks, and then it doesn't matter what the weather does. Because even in 88 and I think in 91 as well, we had a lot of rain. I can remember, especially in 88, a lot of cars having to be pulled out.
I was going to say that. I mean, having sloshed my way round one of those car parks this morning, for them to say it's all going to be fine tomorrow, I mean, they're not car parks really, they're fields. There's not a lot of tarmac around, is there?
Yeah, but either way, I mean, the nice thing is the fans will be here one way or another tomorrow, and it'll be a fantastic race.
How about this place for you? It must have terrific memories. I mean, it always inspired you driving here, didn't it?
Yeah, it's been terrific. I mean, England, that's having the relationship synonymous with the fans and winning 5 times in England. First time in '85 at the European Grand Prix, and then 4 of the British Grand Prix. But winning here in '87, '91 and '92 was very, very special memories. Not least of all, every time because of the fans.
Tony, the fans, as I say, having chatted to them, they're all okay, the ones who are here. There are lots more watching us out there who probably can't be here. But despite the weather, what sort of weekend do you think we're in for?
Well, as Nigel said, I think it's going to be a very, very exciting race. I mean, it's batten down the hatches, and as we've said, prepare the cars almost like boats, because I'm sure there's going to be storming drives in storming weather. Could have the safety car out, we could have loads of red flags, we could have a very strange topsy-turvy result.
Okay, let's just remind you how the standings look going into this, the 4th Grand Prix of the season. And Michael Schumacher, well, 30-point maximum for him. Then Barrichello, Fisichella, Hakkinen, who's never won here, Ralf Schumacher equal 4th, and Villeneuve with those precious points for BAR. And Ferrari, 29 points clear in the constructors. McLaren with a lot of ground to make up. Benetton just ahead of Jordan and Williams. Well, Tony, if we look back at those first 3 races, and I mean the real contrast between Ferrari getting the flyer and the world champion Häkkinen yet to really get off the ground.
Well, we know that Ferrari are a very good car and far more reliable at the moment than the McLaren. The McLaren is slightly quicker and has the edge in that. But if you look in Australia, there's a difference between the two drivers. One is really rested after his big accident here last year. The other one, Mika Häkkinen, they're retiring in Australia, was absolutely pulverised at the end of the season. I know Schumacher, Joyce, he literally has come back like a new man.
That's in Brazil.
Yeah, this is falling oil pressure for Mika Häkkinen, their second retirement. Why, you know, Schumacher won there after there was a glitch for Mika Häkkinen from his computer, a temporary stop of about 3 seconds, a damaged underbody, a huge contrast between the two drivers and the fortunes of the two teams.
Okay, Tony, so there we are then. Mika Häkkinen finding himself 24 points behind Michael Schumacher. What chance has he got of catching up? He'll have to go, son.
McLaren have scored just 10 points from the first 3 races of this year, their worst start since 1996, but there's no need to panic just yet. This time last year they'd just 16 on the board and still won the title. The big problem is Häkkinen's deficit, 24 points to Michael Schumacher, who has a fast, reliable Ferrari. So what's gone wrong, and more importantly, what can they do to put it right? Imola showed that McLaren still have a faster car, but Häkkinen lost 3 seconds when his engine cut out, causing the onboard computer to reset itself. It probably cost him the race. With 2 engine failures in Australia and another in Brazil, are questions being asked of Mercedes?
The strength of a partnership is really is found in adversity, not in success. It's a very short-sighted view if you get some sort of a big stick out and try and beat up on each other when things don't go well.
They haven't done a bad job in the last few years of giving us a very powerful, reliable engine, and occasionally, of course, we've had some problems. But it's F1, you know, you've got to push things to the limit to know where exactly you stand.
We are a go-for-it team, we are aware, and we're going to be that in the future. Everybody is as motivated as ever before. We want to have the third Drivers' World Championship in a row, and we want to win the Constructors.
Coulthard won here last year, but Silverstone is a bogey track for Häkkinen. In '97 he blew up 20 miles from victory. In '98 the heavens opened, he went for a spin and Schumacher won the race. And last year his wheel came off while he was leading. But he's got it all worked out how he's going to bounce back.
Wrong word, I have to win a lot of races. That's not necessary. To get those 24 points, I don't have to win a lot of races, I just have to keep the Michael behind.
It's going to take you a long time if you're first and he's second.
So, anything can happen, but you know, you don't necessarily have to win always.
And that's the way you're approaching the rest of the season?
Absolutely.
And you're looking forward to it?
Definitely.
Well, we've got bad news for you, Mika. Look at this statistic. Schumacher scored an average of 4.5 points a race for the last 3 years. So if he does no more than just score his average for the rest of this season, Häkkinen has to win 7 times and finish second at least 3 times to be champion.
Really, to get onto terms with Michael, we need to win a race in which he doesn't finish. That doesn't see us wish him ill fortune, but it does make us very mindful of the fact that they do have particularly impressive reliability. It's not the way we wanted it to be at the beginning of the season, but we're certainly not giving up. There's a hell of a long way to go, and we can still do it.
I guess, Nigel, they have to say that, don't they, McLaren? And you as a racer know they never give up. But I mean, how do you see the scenario?
Yeah, of course they have to say it, but they mean it. And McLaren's a fantastic team, and Mercedes have done a fantastic job. And I believe the championship's not over till the last race. They can come back and they can win. You only have to have 2 or 3 races of reliability problems with Ferrari, and they're right back in there. So I think there's a fantastic season. What you can say, which is positive for Ferrari, they couldn't have wished for a better start. Marvellous start of the season, but a long way to go.
It's an unusual start for Ferrari, isn't it? Has that surprised you? They really hit the ground running this year.
Yeah, well, you never know what's going to happen until the red light turns to green. You know, anything can happen. But yeah, most marvellous start for them. But McLaren, and there's a few other teams in there pitching in. David's very capable, but Mika is very quick. 2 world championships in the bag. I mean, he's hungry for the 3rd. You know, it's going to be an exciting race tomorrow.
They've been waiting so long to get this Drivers' Championship, haven't they?
I think the nice thing is that everybody wishes, in a way, that Ferrari, for 20 years it's been now since Jody Scheckter won, they're ready to win not only the Constructors' Championship but the Drivers' Championship. So, I mean, I, for one, if they do it, will congratulate them heartily, having been a driver for them.
Would you expect them to do it this year then?
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, if anyone can beat them, it's going to be McLaren, for sure. But, you know, with a 3-race start like they've just had, they won't get a better start than that. So they've been saying for years, all the Italian reporters have been saying, it's got to be this year, it's got to be this year. Well, hopefully it will be, but we'll see.
Okay, thanks for the moment, Nigel. If you've been with us over the last 3 races, you know there have been strong suggestions of rule changes in time for this British Grand Prix. I know the drivers are very relieved that those speed limiters are still in action, and that's part of Martin Brundle's Inside Track.
There's been a very pertinent change in the rules for this weekend at Silverstone regarding certain aspects of the Formula One car, a clarification indeed. It's quite complicated, so I've got the technical director of McLaren, Adrian Newey, to try to help explain it to us. Adrian, what has changed for this weekend?
What the FIA have said is that they're finding it increasingly hard to police the very complicated engine control strategies that people have been coming up with. And also there's been grey areas where people have perhaps been stretching the regulations, particularly things like using pit lane speed limiters, anti-stall strategies, perhaps for starts, in effect launch control. So what the FIA have done is 2 things. They've basically restricted the regulations so you can't use the pit lane speed limiter or anti-stall for things such as starts. Acceleration limitation was another area which has been tidied up and shown to be definitely not an area open to interpretation, let's say. And at the same time, they've insisted that the software must be much simpler and therefore easier to inspect.
And has it been easy to achieve in such a short space of time?
No, it's been difficult for the teams. This was first mooted in Brazil 4 weeks ago, but it wasn't the final drafting wasn't really issued until Imola, and even since Imola just 2 weeks ago there have been further changes and clarifications, so it's been a tall order for all the teams to come up with something that works in the time available.
It will now be very clear when the driver has pressed that pit lane speed limiter button. The fuel flap will come up and the red rear light will pulsate. This button can only be used in the pit lane. And now I believe the speed sensor has to be on the front wheel. What does that mean?
Basically what happens is the speed sensor is this small part here. It's an inductive sensor and it works off the wheel rotating like that. We have 4 of those, 2, one on each rear wheel, one on each front wheel. What was happening before was people were running them off the rear wheel, and that effectively meant that they could use it as a rev limiter in first gear off the start line. So to prevent that and prevent its use as a traction control device, it has to run off the front wheel. Obviously the car's a rear wheel drive, so that sorts that problem out.
So it's a real clarification this week.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. Well, let's just link up, Nigel, shall we, with your old pal Murray Walker. Now, I'll tell you what, the man to blame is Murray Walker. He's been doing this race since 1950, I think it is, or even before then perhaps, and he's been begging, please give me the British Grand Prix in April all along. And finally, Murray, you've got your way.
Get your facts right, Rosenthal. 1948. But welcome back, superstar, is what I want to say. Nigel, it's great to have you back.
Welcome back, Murray, yourself, and thanks for bringing us back here in April. I understand it is your fault, but I don't go for that.
Nigel, it's 5 years since I had the pleasure of talking about you in Formula One, and particularly the British Grand Prix. What have you missed? Don't say nothing.
No, I tell you what, I mean, just like Derek said earlier, it's the sound of the engines, Murray. And I think above all, the atmosphere. The atmosphere, you can see everything on television, but you can't sample it unless you're here. Yeah. And the fans still, even today, I mean, there's some fans I've bumped into, they're marvellous, Murray.
Yeah, they're always saying to me, how's Nigel getting on? And I say, oh, of course he's getting on very well. Now, tell me, I'm standing in a pretty wet pit lane. It's going to be drying out. What's your guess for qualifying?
I guess for qualifying, I think it will be between Mika and Michael. I think Michael here might just squeeze it. But, I mean, David could squeeze it here because of the people power. The British drivers will raise their game here, and I think it's going to be a fantastic qualifying session. The only thing is, Murray, people who pick the right time to go out because you've got a drying track. So tactics here in qualifying is all important, and whoever qualifies well here today will start the race in the best position.
All right, thanks for that, Nigel. It's all yours, Jim.
Thank you very much indeed, Murray. And Murray will be grafting away the qualifying hour in just over 10 minutes' time. Nigel, by the way, the last man to put a Ferrari on pole here at Silverstone in 1990. Well, it's the 150th Grand Prix for the Jordan team. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has been going pretty well here over the last couple of days, and here he is chatting to James.
Heinz, it's a very unusual situation here. You're looking very, very quick, but the track is drying out all the time. How do you see this qualifying hour going?
Well, certainly, I don't know how will it go in qualifying later on. It could be weather condition that's drying out or it's a condition that's getting wet. You never know.
No, it's a bit of a lottery, but you did pretty well in the wet last year, didn't you? Must feel confident.
Yeah, I mean, the car generally is okay. Generally is as well a situation where you have to choose the right tires for the right moment. I mean, in this run and qualifying, you have to be flexible, that's for sure.
Okay, thanks very much. That's good.
And here we are at Silverstone, some very dark, heavy stuff overhead with, 6 or 7 minutes to go to the qualifying hour, and they will want to get out before that stuff comes down. Well, Martin Brundle's had quite a say in designing the modern Silverstone circuit, and here he is looking at a couple of the key areas. Silverstone, just over 3 miles round, including Copse, Abbey, Stowe and Beckett. And they'll be going 60 laps tomorrow.
Beckett's then. Now you've pretty much got a driver's eye view from where you are, except his backside is literally dragging along the ground. If you approach a section of road like that, it looks pretty much like your average roundabout on a town bypass. You'd select a lane and come down to second gear. In a Formula 1 car, you're doing 170 miles an hour plus in top gear and still accelerating. You won't lift off until that 135 mile an hour left-hander. But should it rain in qualifying or the race, there'll be significantly less grip. You're on board with Coulthard in very tricky conditions, still doing around 100 miles an hour. He must wait for the exit of the final right of Beckett's before applying the 800 horsepower and sweeping left into Hanger Straight. We're down at Stowe. I thought I'd show you this sea of gravel. It's more famous than the racetrack itself of recent times. Michael Schumacher careered through here to break his leg in last year's Grand Prix, and Ricardo Zonta had a huge crash in testing very recently when he arrived into Stowe, 3 wheels on his wagon at 195 miles an hour and went flying through the air. If you spin off in here, you slow down quite quickly. If you come in a straight line or with a suspension problem, the car simply gets launched and rattles the barrier. Abbey Chicane arrived at 180 miles an hour in the dry, but still over 170 even in the pouring rain. You tend to get some standing water as the track drains slightly downhill. It can be a great overtaking opportunity, as David Coulthard showed 2 years ago, putting manners on Michael Schumacher, a rare occurrence. But he also showed later in the race it's easy to get overconfident. Just a little bit extra water and the car starts to aquaplane. Back on board with Coulthard. This is the exit of Abbey into the Great Bridge Corner. 160 miles an hour in the dry, not quite so fast today. Before Priory, you can always take more speed through here than you'd ever imagine, and a short squirt on the throttle into Brooklands. Now it feels painfully slow. Hurry up and wait, but keep the car inside. Not too much throttle, another short squirt into the long right-hander of Luffield. 100 miles an hour in the dry. Coulthard taking a wide line to get the car as straight as possible, as soon as possible, to try and find some traction. Then fantastic acceleration, sweeping through Woodcote over the start-finish line.
Well, Nigel, you've won 3 times here. You've also won the British Grand Prix at Brands Hatch. Where do you stand in the argument where the race should be staged?
Well, I think it should alternate. Compromise should be reached, but I mean, Brands Hatch deserves to have the race again sometime in the future. It's a fantastic circuit. Great driver circuit, but equally, I mean, as this circuit has shown over the years with changes, been a super circuit. I prefer this one, fastest Grand Prix circuit in the world back in 1985. 160 mile an hour, pole position, Keke Rosberg. And they've lost that, which is a bit of a shame. So, I mean, yeah, Brands Hatch should get the circuit back.
Let's talk to you about Jenson Button. the young man, his first Grand Prix at Silverstone. All sorts of attention on him. There he is, preparing to go out in the Williams. Are we expecting too much of him is one question, and has he been fast-tracked unfairly?
Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it?
Of course it is.
He's very young. He's obviously very talented. I think he's done a very good job. He should get a lot of encouragement, a lot of support. But people shouldn't expect too much of him too soon. He's got a lot of things to learn this year, not least of all the circuits. This morning he had a bit of a whoopsie on the circuit and lost a lot of time in practice, which is a shame because you need that track time. But all in all, I think if the press don't expect too much of him, he settles down, stays on the black bit of the circuit, he'll do a great job.
How long does it take to get to grips with Formula One?
Well, that depends on what team you're driving for, whether you've got a good car to start with or not. He's with a great team. The Williams team is fantastic, with Patrick Head and Frank Williams, and with Gerhard Berger there for the BMW engine heading it up. He's got all the experience and all the help and support. Ralf Schumacher now has come of age. I think he'll be getting a lot of help off Ralf. So I think he'll do very well. I think he'll do better than people will give him credit for.
Okay. Your final thoughts about what we're going to expect in this next hour, Tony?
Well, I think it's the weather watch stuff, isn't it? Some of them will be using their meteorologists. Others of them will be... I practiced that one. And others of them will just be using guys out on the hill and phoning in and watching the clouds. I mean, as Nigel says, you've got to pick your time. And you've got to put a banker in early on and then see what happens.
And there it is. Clouds gathering over Silverstone. Well, of course, the weather and the ensuing chaos really has been the big story this weekend. Louise Goodman, though, has been keeping tabs on what else has been happening in the world of F1.
Silverstone has yet another rival in the battle to host the British Grand Prix. The race was due to move to Brands Hatch in 2002, but there are fears the Kent circuit may fail to gain planning permission to make the necessary track improvements. The owners of Brands Hatch have now approached Donington as a possible alternative. The Leicestershire track last hosted a Grand Prix in '93. Paul Stewart has stood down from his role of Chief Operating Officer at Jaguar due to ill health. He's to receive treatment for cancer of the colon in America. Paul will remain on the Jaguar board and will further review his situation once treatment is completed. Heinz-Harald Frentzen made it home from San Marino with just hours to spare before the birth of his daughter, Leah. To mark the occasion, the team, which celebrates its 150th Grand Prix this weekend, presented their driver with a Go Faster baby buggy.
Thank you, Lou, and it goes without saying that we all send our best wishes to Paul Stewart, very much involved in that Jaguar team, and Johnny Herbert waiting to go. It looks nice and bright and clear there, doesn't it, on that particular shot? Believe me, it ain't. Nigel, you gasped when you saw that shot of Ricciardo Zonta upside down, flying over the fence down there at Stowe. What are your feelings about the overall safety of the circuit, particularly in the wet?
Well, I think first of all, I think Formula One in general has got to be congratulated. They've just done a fantastic job just in the recent years since I've left it. From the safety point of view, you can have the most horrendous shunts and people just walk away. This circuit is as safe as any circuit in the world. It's just at one angle you hit the barriers, how hard it is. If you can go in sideways, then obviously there's a lot of bits on the car that can fall off. If you go in frontal, unfortunately like Michael did, it can hurt.
You've had your share of shunts.
Only a few.
Just one or two, yeah. And you broke your neck once, I think someone said to me, and then discharged yourself from hospital. But can Michael Schumacher really come here and say, this is just another circuit for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Michael's a true professional, as Mika is. I mean, my admiration goes out to both those guys, because I think you mark a driver how great they are after they've come back after a major accident. What Mika came back with after Australia and what he's done with winning the 2 World Championships, fantastic. And I think Michael, with his broken leg, coming back and finishing the season so strong at the end of last year, is a statement to both of them.
Just finally from you for the moment, I know you're going to comment during the qualifying session for it, Sir Nigel. Are there drivers that actually relish these sorts of conditions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of them enjoying it there this morning, because if the engine isn't quite as strong as the strongest and the car's not quite as good, they can make up a little bit themselves.
Thanks very much indeed, Nigel. Look forward to hearing from you during the qualifying session. Let's pop down and have a word with James Allen with all the ladies from down there. James.
Jim, it's terrifically exciting down here. You can see just behind me here, Ron Dennis and Steve Hallam from the McLaren team. They're in deep discussion about the tactics here. Everybody's wondering exactly what's going to happen here. The track is obviously going to dry out, but I've been talking to a few of the teams. They're saying that there are showers in the air. Let me just show you what the track is actually like at the moment. Come down here, you can see there's quite a lot of moisture on the surface, so you would expect them maybe to start out with the wet tyres, because Silverstone, the water does stay on the track, but obviously they'll be putting the dries on and going for runs. It's the last 15 minutes here of this hour that's going to be critically exciting and very, very good fun indeed. Look forward to it.
Thanks very much indeed to Murray and to Martin as well. A fantastic session we have seen there, and it stayed dry. Nigel, your comments on that?
Just brilliant session. Got very excited watching it. I mean, Murray and Martin did a marvellous job. I mean, but what can you say? I mean, Rubens, fantastic for Ferrari, but I mean, McLaren, I mean, they're very strong, and Michael's behind them. So it's going to be a good, tough race tomorrow.
That's the first Ferrari on pole since you back in 1990.
I'm very pleased for him.
It's a bit like a home track for Rubens, this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but he's done a cracking job. He's settled into the Ferrari team very quickly, and they'll be very happy with that performance.
Jolly good. We can go straight to Louise Goodman, who's talking now to Jenson Button.
Jenson, Murray's just described you as Jenson megastar, Button. Does it feel that way to you?
I think it needed to be done, actually. I've had a pretty terrible day so far today. My mistake in the first practice session this morning, I threw it off the circuit, which didn't help matters. Lucky enough it dried out today, due to I didn't get any wet running, and it's good to be inside the top six, first time inside the top six, and hopefully we can do the same in the race.
All down to those last closing minutes of the session. A bit frantic for you?
Oh, definitely. The team planned it excellently. For the end of the session, we knew it was going to be very, very difficult to do a time the last few minutes, but we were able to, and I'd like to say thanks to the team for doing a good job.
You're going to enjoy yourself on that grid tomorrow, aren't you?
Definitely. Just hope the crowd will be here tomorrow as well.
Well, let's hope you stay up there tomorrow as well. Well done, Jenson.
Thank you.
He's a very cool customer, Jenson Button, particularly bearing in mind he didn't get out on the circuit until half an hour had gone. Well, we've had a touch of Mansell mania here in the past. After what he's done there, and with the gates open tomorrow, stand by for a big war for Button.
Yeah, very composed, did a great job, because I mean he fell off, as he said, this morning, but he got the job done this afternoon, and that's exactly what he needed to do, and all credit to the Williams team and Jenson.
And the two McLarens, though, are poised on the second row there, Tony.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it is going to be a fascinating contest. But just going back to Jenson, he's alongside his hero,
yes, Michael Schumacher,
and he's
right.
got to get that out of his brain. That it's his first ever British Grand Prix, and he's not got to worry about it. I don't know how he's going to block it out.
I don't think he's going to worry about it at all. Always going to concentrate tomorrow on beating him off the grid. I mean, he's got youth on his side, and I tell you, he's got a lot of talent.
Just sum up for us when you come here as a Brit on Grand Prix Sunday to drive the British Grand Prix, and you're in good shape on the grid.
Yeah, the most important thing you've got to do is focus. There's a lot of things that you've got to go through, and you've got to have a lot of eventualities covered. And the more you got covered, the more automatic it is, because if you have to think about something, it's already too late. So tomorrow, everyone's got to focus at the front of the grid and try and get a good start. Because I say this, Michael Schumacher won the race at Imola on the start. If he would have dropped back on the start, he wouldn't have won that race. That's why his car got very wide off the start.
Thanks to you both, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes' time. We've had a terrific qualifying session for the British Grand Prix, and Rubens Barrichello, the Brazilian, has ended up on pole. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Jordan right up there alongside him, then the McLarens, and look at that, Jenson Button alongside his hero Michael Schumacher on row 3, Eddie Irvine down in 9th, and Johnny Herbert is 14th. Terrific effort though, I'm very much on home ground for the Jordans and Heinz-Harald we spoke to before the start.
Yeah, I mean, Heinz-Harald Frentzen was talking about this race because they've done so much testing here in every condition. He said, we've had all 4 seasons in one day here. They were talking about yesterday, and they just went around avoiding the puddles. But it is their backyard. They know the place, every inch of it. So does Heinz-Harald Frentzen. But they have been battling against gearbox problems, which caused retirements in the last couple of races. Hopefully they've gone on top of that. The race is a different matter, of course, the pressure's on the gearbox there. And also he's a new dad. 150th race for Jordan. A lot of the fans here. Eddie Jordan brings all the staff over. They have a special grandstand. He was playing the drums last night at Stowe School. If they get the result, it'll be a big party, yeah.
Rubens Barrichello, I mean, he's got this thing with the Michael Schumacher shadow hanging over him. He had one, I think there were 13 different changes at the top of the grid today. He put it on pole early and stayed there at the end. And it's good to see him there, particularly with the shadow of Schumacher over him, Nigel.
His job will be to get a great start, stay out there, and maybe even to slow the pace for Michael to sort of catch up. But fabulous job. But I have to say, what a marvellous job Frenzen's done for Jordan. Very, very good home Grand Prix, and he should have a good crack at winning tomorrow too. What a marvellous lap that was, though, because it was early on. That's the thing. It's all a question of timing, and Rubens did it absolutely perfect.
We can hear from Rubens Barrichello, pole sitter here at Silverstone. Here he is chatting in the press conference.
Rubens, that must have been probably the most exciting qualifying session we've ever seen. I think about 20 different drivers had pole at one time, but you've ended up with it. How do you feel?
I feel very good. I must be honest that I enjoy this type of condition. I'm particularly proud because I think, last week I've tested just on the only 2 days in the wet, so I had no experience with this car on the dry apart from the 2 laps that I had yesterday. But the team did a good job to give me a good car, and this track I know very well, so I had no traffic and I pushed to the very, very limit, which was good enough.
Indeed it was. Quick final thought about the British
best
Grand
race
Prix. this
year is coming up tomorrow, without a question.
That'll do for us.
McLaren in a good position to win back some points from Ferrari.
Okay, and of course we have extensive coverage throughout the weekend for you. ITV2 show tonight, and Tony Jardine presenting that. Be sure to watch out for that F1 theme night. And tomorrow we are with you from midday tomorrow. 8 o'clock ITV2, that theme night, midday. So Sterling Moss is going to be in Nigel's seat here in the studio. Highlights at 11:15. The race is off at 1 o'clock, and you can see that highlight show once again on ITV2 Easter Monday at 7 o'clock. Be sure then to make a date with us tomorrow at midday. David Coulthard won here last year. This fella, you've won this race, 4 times, isn't it?
4 times British, 1 European.
4 times, all right. Jensen's up there too. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
If you would like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by livesport365.com is www.itv-f1.com.